On this sunny, chilly, what day?
Friday, y'all.
And we've got Senator Kevin Blackwell, represents District 19, Desoto and Marshal Counties. Serves. Are you still chairperson of Medicaid?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And also chair of PEER this year.
Oh, of PEER.
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for coming in, Senator. Appreciate that. So I guess the big breaking news, you have been running point on the medical marijuana legislation on the Senate side. You really hadn't stopped working on this, have you, since you guys sine die last year?
Since May. Actually, I was in Cancun in a pool, had a fruity drink, and my phone started ringing, and that was when got the news the Supreme Court had struck down the initiative process.
Yeah.
So the next week I was back in Jackson. I've been down here every week since then.
Man, I know you and Representative Yancey on the House side have really done yeoman's work on this legislation in serving the people in this respect. So big news of the week is we've got a bill that was passed by both chambers, is now sitting on the governor's desk. You and I were just talking before we came on. When the clock starts, he has 5 days in accordance with Mississippi statute.
I believe that's correct.
To take action. And if he doesn't, it by default becomes law.
That's correct. So he basically has three options. He can sign it, and it becomes law. He can not sign it and wait 5 days and it becomes law, or he can veto it.
Yeah. You want to take a hazard a guess at what he's going to do there?
I'm not going to guess. If it wouldn't surprise me if he did not sign it.
Yeah.
But I don't believe he's going to veto it.
He certainly, in his initial response, his public comments about it, he just said that, you guys have been working hard to get something that is, I don't know, close or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact quote, but it didn't tip his hand one way or another. Let's just put it that way.
Right. And we, the governor's office came to us, I think, about 3 times with the request. And for the most part, we were able to address all those. And then we further reduced the overall amount, which was a sticking point for him. So,
yeah.
So I'm hoping we moved far enough. It's for him to approve the bill.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to sort of share the chronology on that. I-65, Initiative 65, allowed for the purchase of 5 ounces per month. And then in the Senate, in the bill you guys offered, reduced that to 3.5. And then that was changed in the House to 3, and that's where it landed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So we're at 3. I think the governor, in numerous public addresses on the matter, was asking for 2.5. I think half of what Initiative 65. Is that kind of your understanding?
Yes, sir. I believe that was correct.
So we landed on 3. And anyhow, and you brought some samples with you too.
I did. And this whole process is compromised. That's the political process, and so
show us what you got. We got you on camera there. So.
All right. Well, there was discussions, I think, on another the same channel, different
different show, different program,
where an ounce was the size of a loaf of bread.
Okay.
And so what I brought in
a loaf of bread.
A loaf of bread. So what I brought in, this is hemp, so this is not real cannabis, but it's hemp. But this is flour, and that is an ounce of flour.
Okay.
So it's more. It's in a little baggie. You probably put a slice of bread would occupy the same place.
Maybe a sandwich. Be a little tight.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then this is the 3.5 grams, and so this is some were saying you're going to get 11 joints per day out of this packet.
Okay.
And in actuality, it'll make about 3.5 joints.
Gotcha.
And then what I brought in here was an actual 1.5 gram joint, and we got to put a cigarette in beside it just so you sort of
for comparison
purposes.
Yeah.
So you can see it's about the size of a cigarette.
Okay.
So,
and that's how much? What's the quantity in that? 1.5?
This is 1.5 grams.
Okay. So I guess the debate seems to have evolved to the most thorny issue, I guess, with respect to the governor's position and in the bill is how much could you get in terms of making of joints out of that daily amount, that unit, and And so you brought in kind of for comparison purposes. It does seem I made it clear I've never done that before, don't know anything about it, but just my eyes would suggest the 3.5 grams that you just held up. It just seems like it'd be hard to get 11 out of that. In the size of what's in the tube, the actual cigarette and the joint you brought.
Right. You could, and actually I had a picture that when we did this on the floor that I displayed, and we had 11 joints out of this. Okay. And the filter, as you can see, there's a filter on this. Yep. The filter was more than half of the joint. Okay. So you could get 25 joints, but you're going to be smoking paper.
Yeah, and I heard that argument as well. So anyhow, I guess we're going to see where all that goes now with respect to the governor. But even if he were to veto it, do you believe that both chambers would stand firm on where their positions are, which would
I believe
override a veto?
I believe so, and I can speak for the Senate. We've worked with the governor for me for 4 years and others for 8 years. We have a good working relationship, and we don't really want to veto. Sure. Override a veto. I'm not going to say the same for our House friends, but the numbers are there. I think to override a veto if it came down to that.
I got you. Well, all right. So what's next? I mean, when is it? Suppose he signs it, just hypothetically signs it, or doesn't, and it becomes law. What's the schedule from there on?
Well, after that, the Department of Health has about 120 days. We kind of lengthened the period for them to start issuing licenses to practitioners and the patients. And then the whole process starts with the applicants for the processors and the growers. Yep. To start, and then we end up with the final stage is the dispensaries getting licensed.
What are you hearing from practitioners? I think is the term that is used to describe those who would be authorized under the law to authorize patients, certify patients for use. What are you hearing from that community in terms of their interest in being in the program? They've got to jump through some hoops and complete some training, so forth.
Yes, sir, they do, and that's where we differ from Oklahoma. There was a lot of concerns about that, but so we do have some, I guess, if you want to say hurdles for, probably not the best word, but
requirements.
It's not going to be a slam dunk like it was over in Oklahoma. But so a practitioner is going to have 8 hours of training. So they're going to have to make a conscious decision that they want to take their practice in this particular direction and be committed to learning because this is such a new product. So once that occurs, then patients can start going to them. And kind of it's been a mixture. There's been we had hearings, and there were some practitioners that came in and spoke against cannabis, and mostly against the smoking aspect of it. Okay. And then I've met with others that can't wait to get started. Think it's a great thing. Yeah. It's going to be a good benefit for their patients.
So just to kind of catch up our audience, Senator, who could qualify as a practitioner?
Well, we have physicians, DOs, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, and optometrists.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And now also, as I recall, in the bill as drafted, a potential patient between the age of 18 and 25 can only be certified by a physician. Is that correct?
One of the practitioners has to be a physician.
One has to have two, one of which has to be a physician.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And then over the age of 25, you just need one. Is that correct? One of any of those categories of practitioners.
That's correct. And below 18, it needs to be a physician as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So you've got the group below 18, and I've seen cases where parents of children that could benefit from this have spoken about that in support of this legislation.
Yes, they have.
Yeah. All right. So, and do you think there's enough time? I'm concerned, Senator, about the Department of Health and dumping this on them, for lack of a better term. It's a pretty short time frame to get all this up and running, and a lot of work. And of course, they're kind of busy with all the COVID stuff as well. Would you answer that when we come back?
Yes, sir.
We got a break right here. Senator Kevin Blackwell is our guest in the SuperTalk Studio. Stay with us. Baba O'Reilly, all I can think about right now when I hear that is Pete Townsend smashing guitars at the end of the live performance. He had the money to do it. We've got Senator Kevin Blackwell in the SuperTalk Studios. All right, so before we went to break, Senator, I was just asking if you had any concerns about the new responsibilities, essentially, for the Department of Health in the administration of the medical marijuana program. It just would appear, given that it seems like every day there's news coming out of Dr. Thomas Dobbs with respect to coronavirus, that there's a lot of work to be done here in a short amount of time to get it accomplished. What are you hearing there?
Well, you know, the department was tasked with all the responsibilities to start with Initiative 65.
Yeah.
And had already done a real good job of going through and putting in some rules and regulations, for the program. Dr. Dobbs has been great to work with, sort of like the Energizer Bunny. This COVID thing certainly has placed a lot of demands on him, but he's been willing to step up to the plate and work with us on this. So we're going to make sure he gets the appropriate resources to manage the program. So when you look at the taxation of it, you got an excise tax and then a sales tax, right? That's correct. It's 5% excise tax, I believe, 7% sales tax. So you got to think that a fair amount of that revenue will have to fund those resources that Department of Health will need in administering the program. That's true, along with the licensing and application fees. Yeah. Is this consistent, Senator, with the other states that have a medical marijuana program, that they're sort of equivalent of the Mississippi Department of Health administers? They have. It's sort of a hodgepodge. Some have an actual separate agency. Okay. And they're, at one time we entertained at least that discussion, but didn't want to create another layer of government bureaucracy. Sure. So just trying to utilize our current resources. So some do have these agencies, some it's the Department of Health, and then some the Department of Ag is certainly involved in the cultivation side of things. Yeah. Well, a short time frame to get all this spun up in place. And, of course, I think the law provides for systems, requires systems that, what do we say, seed to sale, I think is the phrase used. Yes, sir. That's a lot of work to get all that up and running. Now, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. As an old IT guy, because we've got systems that are in place in other states that have been developed and enhanced and fine-tuned and have evolved over the period. So it's kind of the good news from the implementation perspective in our state is we've got lots of other tools and resources and sort of guidance from the other state, a model, if you will, to implement here. Right. And I know the department has been solicited, if you would, by a number of providers. Sure. I'm sure. Who have these seed to sell tracking systems, so they've had opportunities to take a look. And then we're kind of waiving the ITS requirements so they can get up to speed a little bit and comply with those time frames. Yeah, and as one who has been through countless ITS procurements, and they do a fantastic job, by the way, that in itself, it'd take that long just to award a deal from now to the time you spin it up. When you talk about an RFP and the selection process, the evaluation, that takes a long time to do. So, so you guys have thought through that. I assume in council with ITS, they've probably recommended and how to best approach that. I just point that out because that really is a critical element of this deal to keep it well regulated in accordance with the law. That's correct. All right, so then we've got the Department of Agriculture. Update us on what the final decision was there for Andy Gibson's group. We've completely removed them from the bill. So now the Department of Health could contract with them for some aspects if they so desire. Oh, contract with them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it just seems to be a little odd that I'm not sure because you got a plant that's grown in the earth that also happens to be medicine in this case. And it does kind of straddle both of those departments, it would seem. So the Department of Health, could the Department of Health contract with a third party as needed? Okay, yes. So the bill provides for that. And other agencies. All right, a couple other things that have come up related to this is participation from a business perspective by members of the legislature.
I believe that ended up prohibiting such participation until January 1, 23. Is that correct?
That's correct. So, we're citizen legislators.
Sure.
We bunch of us have our own businesses.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a full-time job.
Right. So we invest in different things.
Yeah.
As we looked at this, since we're creating this brand new business venture right from the beginning and we're voting on it, we just thought it best that we just put a little moratorium on it.
Yeah. Well, I think what will likely result there is that, and I'm just speculating here, that the vast majority of the investment and any sort of licensing and filings and a formation of businesses in this industry will have occurred by January 1, 23.
That's right.
And so that's I assume that's what the thought process
That's right. All these businesses will be formed up and running, certainly cultivators and processors.
Yeah.
And so if you want to get involved, then you're coming in on the back end of it.
Yeah. Because they're poised. I mean, they've all been waiting for this. They were kind of ready, and then when the Supreme Court made their decision, it put a pause and a hold. But I know a lot of them have been positioned. The association that has formed here, Ken Newberger's been on the program before, and he heads that Medical Marijuana Association. He's talked about who are essentially his members, those in the industry. So the question here on the C Spire text line, is the state going to regulate the THC level?
We put a limit on the THC. And as far as medical goes, I think we're the only state that has a limitation on the THC. So we put a limitation on the flower at 30% and infused products at 60%. Yeah.
All right, on the C Spire text line, tell Senator Blackwell I said good job on the medical marijuana bill. This is this has to be tiring, and I appreciate the time and effort you put in. I miss him on Pier. That's from Terry Burton, by the way.
Thank you.
I wanted to let you know
Terry.
that. Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
Okay, this is a good question. What training is required of the sellers? I think bud tenders is what they're called, right?
In the industry, they're called bud tenders. I think we originally had that term in our bill, but I believe we removed it.
Yeah.
But they're going to have 8 hours of training initially, and then each year an additional 5 hours of training.
And what about in terms of certifying a patient? Is it the practitioner who would determine is there an amount they determine, or once they certify you, it's within the constraints of the law?
It's within the constraints of the law. And a lot of all this comes because it's a Schedule I drug.
Okay.
If the feds ever move this to Schedule II, we'll be revamping our laws here. But so a physician can't do a prescription,
right?
And a prescription comes with a specific dose, and duration and things of that nature.
Right.
So for initially, the patient would go in, see the physician. If they had one of the qualifying conditions, then they would write a recommendation.
Okay.
And then they take that send it to the Department of Health, and then the Department of Health would issue them a card. They take the card to the dispensary of their choice and get their product.
Would that recommendation? I think I've heard Lee refer to it as like a certification, but the same thing we're talking about here, approving them. Does it? Would they specify as part of that the form of consumption, smokable or otherwise?
No, sir.
Just certify.
Just certify.
And then they go to a dispensary.
And these bud tenders, as we referenced, or at least in my experience in visiting a few dispensaries in other states, have a wealth of knowledge about the product that far exceeds my knowledge. It's almost like sommeliers with wine.
Yeah.
And it's above my level of understanding.
The wine stewards.
That's right.
Yeah. So what about requirements for growers and cultivators? So is there anything special there that in terms of prior experience or qualifications there?
No, we've pretty much let the free market decide. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Question on the C Spire text line I'll answer is where do you go? I'd recommend calling the Medical Marijuana Association, the association, if you're interested in
That's
being
right.
in the industry.
That's right.
Yeah.
That would
Out of your
work,
guys'
too.
hands at that point. And out of your hands as far as that's concerned.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Senator, very informative, sir, and appreciate you coming on and appreciate all your hard work on this. And we'll see what happens with the governor now.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll talk to you again.
Appreciate it.
Have good luck hunting today. You told me you're going hunting.
That's right. Heading north.
There you go. We'll be right back here on Middays after the break.